What's up, everybody? My name is Parasite. Welcome back to Rebuilding Nebraska. Today will be the final recruiting update of year one. I usually like to put these out a couple hours before the actual game, but unfortunately I'm not going to have enough time to record the Penn State game today, so this recruiting update is going to be the only video out today. I want to at least get one video out, and this one's, pretty quick to record and edit, so I am able to get this out, just not an actual gameplay episode. That'll be in a couple days, so sorry about that, but what can you do? So I did want to put something out there. So we're going to have a recruiting update, our final one before we get to the offseason. And we've got some new recruits. The last update, we only had 2 total commits. We now have 7. So we're starting to get there, but we still have 18 scholarships left. And I want to use all of them. So to start off, I want to show you our new recruits. So number 1, Antonio Gilmore. Not the number 1 pass rusher we were going after, but he was number 2. And if we don't get number 1, he's probably going to start as a true freshman. So still glad to get him. The next one, another defensive end, Chris Brown. He'll be more of a depth player. We need at least 3, if not 4 pass rushers. So we definitely just need numbers. Chris Brown is just a body. Next up, Tony Roberts, and the player we've known we're going to get for a while. When was he going to freaking commit? We had like a 5,000 point lead on him nearly, but he has finally committed. So we've got our backup center, but he might actually start at guard because our guard situation is not good. And we've struggled to bring in guards or tackles that could play guard. And Tony Roberts is a pretty good player. So if he has to play guard, I'll feel fine about that. But we need to bring in somebody to be listed as a center. And so Tony Roberts has joined. Next up, Gary Thompson, another player that we pretty much knew we were going to get. The number 1 cornerback prospect we were going after. And we do land him, 78 overall. Glad to have him in the fold because our cornerbacks suck. He's going to start as a true freshman. Might be the number 1, could possibly also be the number 2, but I think he's pretty much locked on as at least number 2 for us next year. Final one, Alex McMahon might start. I think there's probably a pretty decent chance he starts for us next year at free safety because we don't have a good free safety after our starting one. Can't think of his name. Deontay Williams. Yes. After he graduates, we don't have anyone else that's any good. So Alex McMahon would be an immediate upgrade at that free safety position and would start, depending on if we can get the other guy we're targeting, who is our number 2 recruit at this point, but it's looking less likely. The other 2 recruits, Jeff Holland, we already knew about. Ryan Brown, we already knew about. Starting quarterback next year, and Jeff Holland probably. And depth defensive tackle might get redshirted next year, but we just need bodies at that position. So happy to have Ryan Brown in. So let's get to what we've got left in our recruiting board. So our number 1 target is still Lance Little. That is the pass rusher that I want, but it's looking pretty unlikely. Georgia have roared into a pretty massive lead, about 1,500 points. We still do have a visit next week, so I don't think it's going to be enough. I don't think we're going to make up 1,500 points in a week 14 visit against Iowa where we're going to get smashed. It's unlikely, and we're continually losing points to him. They have offered him a scholarship as well, so I don't think we're going to get Lance Little, unfortunately. And Blake Harper is the other safety I was talking about that if we got him, he would start a free safety over Alex McMahon. But it's pretty unlikely, I think, that we get him. We're losing a little bit. We're staying in the race with Arizona State, and we both still have visits. But, I don't see a realm in where our visit goes better than Arizona State's does. So I think they're going to get him. It might go down to the offseason, but even then, I don't think I'll have the points available to go all in on Blake Harper because we have so many needs elsewhere. We need about 18 players, so I don't think I'll be able to go all in on Blake Harper. So I think it's going to be unlikely, even though I would love to have him. And then next up, the number 1 defensive tackle we're going after. Another player that we are going to get. We have a 4,500 point lead on USC. It's just a case of when he commits. When he does, he's probably going to be our starter. Probably number 2, I would say, defensive tackle, but I think he's probably still going to be better than anyone else we have at that position. Up next, Brandon Wood. We desperately need quarterbacks, so I desperately want Brandon Wood. He's also a guy that probably would be a starter for us next year at the slot at the very minimum. But another one that's looking kind of unlikely, even though we do have a lead. We've already had our visit, and Oklahoma State haven't. He's visiting there this week. And so I think with that visit, they're going to take the lead, even though we are kind of growing by points. I don't think it's going to be enough. Might be another one of those that goes down into the offseason, and we just probably won't have the number of points available to put in on him to be able to get him over Oklahoma State. Next up, Michael Newsom. He's a tackle, but our tackle situation is actually pretty good. So I would move him to guard, and there's a decent chance he could start. Even if we start that center, like even if, what's his name? Tony Roberts. Even if he starts at guard, I think that Michael Newsom would also start at guard. Our backup guards are bad. So we desperately need guards. Another one that's looking maybe a little bit more likely, even though we are behind by 850 points, might be a little bit more likely than some of the other ones above him. We still have a visit yet to go, as does USC, but Baylor so far don't have a visit, even though they got a lead, and they don't have a scholarship offer. We are the only team to have offered him a scholarship. So I'm kind of hopeful with Newsom, but still not totally sure. Player that we've actually taken a lead on recently. Like, it looked like we had no chance at one point, but we have roared to take the lead over Texas Tech. Brian Donaldson, an athlete that would play wide receiver for us. There's a decent chance he could start as a true freshman. That's just how bad our depth is. But I don't know. Not totally sure. He's a pretty good player. You know, he's a pretty dang good receiver, 74 catching, amazing spec catch, really good catch in traffic, really good route runner, okay enough speed, and okay enough size. We're taking a lead on him. We still have a visit yet to go as well, and we're also the only team to have offered him a scholarship. So I think Brian Donaldson might be pretty likely. Might still go to the offseason, though, based on I don't think we're going to get a big enough lead for him to just commit in the next couple of weeks. Another receiver going after that we are going to be getting is Greg Mckinney. And yeah, we've got a big lead on him. It's just for him, it's just a matter of time, just like some of the other players that we are going to get Greg Mckinney. We are guaranteed to get a receiver. So if we don't get Donaldson, it's not killer. We've got McKinney, who should be coming in. If he doesn't, I would be very surprised. Next up, Mark Graham, another tackle, but another tackle I would move to guard because, like I said, our tackle situation's not bad. Our guard is awful. He wouldn't start, I don't think. I don't think he's good enough to start, but we need depth there anyway, so I would like to bring him in. We do have a visit scheduled for him next week. We are slowly losing points to USC, but we've offered him a scholarship and they haven't. And with that visit, maybe we'll have a chance of getting Mark Graham. One it looks like we might be getting, and one I didn't really plan on. I didn't plan on getting a tight end. Our tight end situation is not bad. But when you've got a 78 overall true freshman that's willing to join you, that's actually like got really good attributes. Like for his size, he's got good speed. He's a really good receiver. Like freakishly good for being a 78 overall. Can't really block, but he also has decent run after the catch ability. Like 83 elusiveness, 76 trucking. He could be a pretty good fullback, but I think that'd be not utilizing his skill set properly with that receiving ability he has. So he definitely would be a tight end, and he might even start because his attributes are better than what we currently have, even though he is a true freshman. And we also, because we have McKinney, we're also going to be getting James Hill, it looks like, another receiver. So again, it makes that Brian Donaldson need a little bit less, but he's still a better player than these other two. So I still want good players. And we've got some pretty bad receivers, so we could probably cut some of them if we need to. So we can afford to get all these guys in. We've got a pretty big lead over Air Force, 6'4", 207. Not super slow either. 87 speed, 94 acceleration. Okay enough as a receiver. I don't know if I'd like to start him year one, but I think year two, he probably will be starting. Travis Williams, another corner we're going after. Again, our quarterback situation sucks, but he wouldn't start. He's not good enough to start, but he'd be good depth. He'd be better depth than what we currently have. So would like to keep him around. Would like to be able to get him, but not totally sure. We're slowly taking the lead over North Texas. We've offered him a scholarship, and we have a visit when no one else does. So it might be another one that goes to the offseason, and hopefully if no one puts points into him, we can get him, but I'm not rating it super high. It's not as big of a need as basically everyone above him. And you might be wondering why I have a 79 overall behind him. Well, it's because cornerback is still a bigger need than running back. We've got Ramir Johnson, who's a sophomore. He's not bad. He's not amazing, but he's not bad. You know, Jake Pierce, pretty good player, but as a true freshman, I don't know if he'd start. I don't know if he'd really be an upgrade. So I'm not going all out. I am putting 500 points on him, but I don't have him super high on this list. But it looks like we are going to be getting him. We've got a pretty decent lead over Alabama. Pretty solid player. Not amazing in any one area, but just solid all around. And we've the only team to have offered him a scholarship. Our lead is continuing to grow. And we just started putting 500 into him. So I think we are going to get him locked up before we get to the offseason. I hope so, at least. And then the guy that could be our number one cornerback if we do land him. He is a JUCO junior, but he's 81 overall. He would immediately step in and be the best cornerback on our team by a mile, just behind or just ahead of the other cornerback we've already gotten. If we can get him, not totally sure. We're not taking a massive lead, and we've been putting all the points into him for a couple weeks. But I mean, Texas A&M is falling behind quite a bit. We're just not getting a great plus gain, so I'm not sure exactly how that works. But we're the only team to offer him a scholarship. Still pretty hopeful we can get him. Would be a good player, but I'm a little bit more interested in freshmen because this is a big rebuild job, and I think bringing in a JUCO, we can win a little bit more having him there. But in the long run, I don't think it's as influential as some of these other young corners we can get. We are going after a kicker. We don't need one, really. Like, Connor Culp is graduating, but we have a kicker being redshirted, but he also sucks. So if I can get a kicker that's better, I'm going to do that. And it looks like we are going to be getting Leon Young. We've got a big lead. Offered him a scholarship. We've got a visit still to come. This one's probably one of the most nailed on we've got. And another pass rusher, because we just need plenty of pass rushers. We have 0 on the team right now. So I want Caleb Nolan to be depth at the very least. And looks like we are probably going to get him. 2,000 point lead. Should be bringing him in. 6'7", just not an amazing pass rusher, but as a depth guy that maybe has potential few years down the line, I think it makes sense. And another depth guy, Sean Smith. He would probably be a backup strong safety. I don't know if he'd be redshirted or not. Probably would, but he would just immediately improve our depth of the position. We've got slight lead over USC. We don't have a visit just yet, but we're growing pretty rapidly, and we've the only team to have offered him a scholarship, so still pretty hopeful we'll get him. And then finally, another tight end, which might seem weird considering we don't need it at all, and we're already almost guaranteed to get one, but he'd actually be a fullback. I've struggled to find decent fullbacks, and I think tight ends actually convert pretty well to fullback because they can block, and a lot of them can kind of break tackles as well. And Frazier's not amazing at that. He's 71 trucking, only 64 looseness, 64 break tackle. But he's a decent blocker. He's got some decent physical attributes. Can catch out of the backfield as well. I'm not as big into him that I need to put a bunch of points into him. If we get a walk-on fullback, it's not the end of the world. I barely use them. Maybe I'll introduce them more when I actually have one. But I don't think it's going to be a major part of our offense. But if we can get Kyle Frazier, there's no reason not to. And it's the final players that we're not putting points into right now, but for the most part, we'd still like to get. Matt Stone would probably redshirt as a punter for us next year. Robbie Luke is just kind of a backup to Kyle Frazier in case we can get him. We've got a pretty decent lead on him. I don't think he's as good as Kyle Frazier, but with that lead we've got, we're more likely to get him. Andrew Jones. I'm not sure about Andrew Jones. It's like 69 overall. He's going to be pretty deep depth for us. He'll be guaranteed to be redshirted. And he is 6'7" and has 96 speed, but he also has 56 catching. And that's a major worry for me. Maybe if he sits for 2-3 years with the red shirt, maybe he'll be ready by then and can be a contributor to the offense. But I don't know. We've got a big lead. Don't really need to put points into him to maintain that lead. And so I still have him on the board just because, why not? He's 6'7" and really fast. We don't have a player like that. And then a couple more. We've got another pass rusher, just a backup option in case we can't get somebody else, just for some depth. Ryan Newman. Kind of the same thing with Nick Seals. He's a JUCO sophomore, I believe, 72 overall. Not good enough that I really want to go in on him over the wide receivers we already have, and we're almost guaranteed to get a couple of those wide receivers. So, yeah, not super high on Nick Seals, but if we can land him, fine. And then backup punter option, Tim Morris. He was our number 1 punter option, and then Boise State decided they wanted him, so I don't think it's worth putting points into him to try to get him, just to be a redshirted punter. It's not that important to me, but still want him on the board, just keep an eye on him. And then finally, just a backup outside linebacker option. If I got points to put into him, I would improve our depth a little bit, but he'd definitely be redshirted year 1. Not guaranteed whether he'd ever be an important part of the team, so not super high on my board. So that is the final recruiting update. We've got 7 committed right now, and we've got 18. Okay, we got 18 available scholarships to give. I'm thinking probably we'll end up giving one to Andrew Jones, probably to Robbie Luke. I doubt we get Kyle Frazier. Unless no one else goes for him, unlikely, but decent chance to go after Robbie Luke. We've already offered him a scholarship. Sean Smith is looking relatively likely. Caleb Nolan is looking very likely. So that's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Leon Young looking very likely. 12. Dixon, we'll see. Pierce looking pretty likely. 13. Travis Williams, not sure. James Hill looking very likely. 14. Rodney Jennings, 15. Mckinney, 16. Tim Hart 17. Yeah, we could have 17 commits. And hopefully that's like almost guaranteed commits. We're almost guaranteed to have 17 commits. So, but we'll probably get at least one of these guys. We'll definitely get at least one of these guys. In the offseason, it'll be probably between Little, Harper, Wood, Newsom. I don't know if I'd go heavy on Mark Graham in the offseason. Travis Williams, Steve Dixon. Again, not totally sure if I'd go super hard on him in the offseason. And that's about it. So we've got a few options to go after in the offseason to bring in even more recruits, some good players. But I think it's going to be a solid recruiting class for us. And it's step one to rebuild this team because it desperately needs it. If you made it this far, why don't you like the video, subscribe, and click the bell. The links to all my socials and my Twitch are in the description. I really appreciate all your support. Thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you next time.